The fluorescent buzz overhead felt like a swarm of angry hornets, drilling into my skull as I yanked the fitting room curtain shut behind me, the fabric snagging on my belt loop like it was trying to hold me back from whatever fresh hell awaited. My reflection stared back from the smudged mirror. Alexander Hale, 28, drowning in a sea of regrets and a thrift store button-down that smelled faintly of mothballs and someone else's bad decisions. And then, without warning, the door rattled, and he burst in, Jude, all fire and forgotten promises. His breath ragged, eyes wild like he'd sprinted across the 5 boroughs to find me, whispering my name like a prayer and a curse in the same ragged breath. Alex, I can't do this without you anymore. I froze, my heart slamming against my ribs like it was auditioning for a cage match. The half-tied tie in my hand dangling like a noose as Jude's presence filled the tiny space, sucking out all the air. We'd been here before, in this godforsaken Macy's on a rainy Tuesday in Manhattan, back when life was a string of stolen glances and late-night texts that promised forever but delivered only ghosts. But now, with the city pounding outside like an indifferent heartbeat, he dropped. Right there on the threadbare carpet, knees hitting the floor with a thud that echoed louder than the thunder rolling in from the Hudson. His hands trembled as he gripped my thighs, not in hunger, but in surrender, tears carving rivers down his stubbled jaw. I betrayed you, Alex. I ran because I was scared, of my family, of the world, of losing you, but I'm done hiding. Marry me, please. Let me make it right. That was the moment the world cracked open, spilling all our buried truths into the harsh light of that fitting room, where the scent of cheap cologne and desperation hung thicker than the steam from the coffee I'd abandoned on the sales counter. I'd come here to buy a suit for my sister's wedding, a straight-laced affair in the Hamptons where I'd play the role of the perfect brother, the one who never rocked the boat. But Jude? He was the storm that had upended everything 3 years ago, back when we were just 2 lost souls crashing into each other at a dive bar in Brooklyn, nursing beers and wounds from lives that didn't fit. It started innocently enough, or as innocent as anything gets in a city that chews up dreams and spits out hustlers. I was fresh out of grad school, buried under student loans and a dead-end job copy editing for a fading magazine in Midtown. Alexander Hale, the reliable one, the guy who showed up on time with a smile that hid the ache of being 25 and still explaining to my conservative parents why I hadn't settled down with a nice girl from accounting. My folks were old-school Irish Catholics from Queens, the kind who crossed themselves at the mention of anything that strayed from the script, church on Sundays, family barbecues, and whispers about the gays like they were some abstract sin. Jude Ramirez was the opposite. A wildfire in human form, 26, with sun-kissed skin from summers spent surfing in California before his folks dragged him east for better opportunities. He was a barista-slash-struggling photographer, all lean muscle and easy grins, his dark curls perpetually tousled like he'd just rolled out of bed after chasing sunsets. We met on a muggy August night at the Rusty Nail, a hole-in-the-wall off Bedford Avenue where the jukebox played Springsteen unironically and the regulars nursed grudges like fine whiskey. I was there to drown the echo of another blind date my mom had set up, a prim accountant named Sarah who talked stocks while I nodded and wondered if anyone else felt like they were acting in a play they hadn't auditioned for. Jude slid onto the stool next to me, ordering a whiskey neat with a voice like gravel wrapped in velvet. "Rough night?" he'd asked, his hazel eyes catching the neon glow from the Budweiser sign, turning them into something molten. "You could say that," I muttered, staring into my pint like it held the answers. "Family expectations. The whole 9 yards." He chuckled, low and warm, leaning in just enough that I caught the faint spice of his cologne. "Sandalwood and sea salt. Tell me about it. Mine think I'm still interning at Dad's law firm in Jersey. Truth? I'm shooting weddings for trust fund kids who cry more than the brides." That laugh again, pulling me in like a riptide. We talked for hours, about the ache of unspoken truths, the way New York promised reinvention but delivered isolation, how we'd both grown up hiding pieces of ourselves under floorboards no one else could see. By last call, we'd stumbled out into the humid night, shoulders brushing as we wandered toward the G train. The city was alive around us. Taxis honking like impatient lovers, laughter spilling from brownstones, the distant wail of sirens that sounded almost like freedom. At my stop in Bushwick, He grabbed my hand, casual, but electric, and said, "Text me tomorrow, Alex. Let's grab coffee, or tacos, or whatever the hell feels right." I did. God, did I? Those first weeks were a blur of stolen moments. Lazy afternoons in his cramped Williamsburg loft, where sunlight filtered through blackout curtains and we'd sprawl on mismatched thrift store furniture, sharing playlists and secrets. Jude's photography was raw, unfiltered, portraits of drag queens in the village, graffiti artists tagging the High Line at dawn, couples tangled in Central Park benches who didn't care who was watching. "I capture the real shit," he'd say, his camera a shield and a sword. "The beauty in the broken." And me? I let him see the cracks I'd patched over with sarcasm and spreadsheets. The first time we kissed, it was on the rooftop of his building, the Manhattan skyline glittering like a promise we both wanted to believe in. His lips were soft, tasting of cheap Merlot and possibility, his hands framing my face like I was something sacred. "I've wanted this since that bar," he whispered against my mouth, and I believed him. Because in that moment, with the wind whipping through our hair and the city humming below, it felt like the world had finally aligned. But love in New York isn't a fairy tale. It's a pressure cooker, hissing with the steam of real life. Jude's family was the first fault line. His dad, Victor Ramirez, was a powerhouse attorney in Newark, the kind of man who built empires on billable hours and ironclad handshakes. His mom, Elena, ran a catering business that fed half the weddings in Essex County, her rosary beads clicking like a metronome to their devout Catholic rhythm. They knew Jude was artistic, but the whispers about his bohemian friends carried an edge sharper than a switchblade. "You're throwing away your potential, Mijo," Victor would boom over Sunday dinners that Jude dodged like landmines. My family wasn't much better. Dad, retired NYPD, still patrolled the block in his mind, suspicious of anything that didn't salute the flag. Mom baked pies for block parties and prayed for my soul in hushed tones after I'd forgotten to bring a date to Easter. When I finally mustered the courage to hint at my truth, over Thanksgiving turkey, no less, Dad's fork clattered against his plate. "Alexander, we're not those people. You need to pray on this. Find a church group." Mom's eyes welled up, her hand on mine like she was anchoring me to the shore. "We love you, sweetheart. But this isn't us." Jude and I built our bubble anyway, fierce and fragile. We'd escape to Coney Island on weekends, riding the cyclone until our stomachs ached, eating Nathan's hot dogs while he snapped candids of me laughing, wind-burned and alive. "This is it, Alex," he'd say, slinging his arm around my shoulders as we watched the Atlantic crash against the boardwalk pilings. Us against the tide. But tides turn. The first real crack came 6 months in, when Jude landed a gig shooting for a queer arts collective in Chelsea. It was his big break. Intimate portraits of trans elders sharing stories of Stonewall survival. The exhibit opening was electric. Rainbow flags fluttering from lofts, champagne flutes clinking under exposed brick, the air thick with incense and unapologetic joy. I stood in the corner, nursing a gin and tonic, pride swelling in my chest as strangers murmured praise for his work. That's when I saw her. Lila, Jude's cousin from California, all golden waves and designer jeans, sweeping in like she owned the room. She'd flown in for Fashion Week, she said, but her eyes lingered on Jude a beat too long. "'Cause, these are stunning," she purred, air-kissing his cheeks. "But you need representation. I know people at IMG." By midnight, she was pitching him a move west. LA, the land of starlets and second chances. "New York's killing your soul, Jude. Come home." He laughed it off that night, pulling me into a shadowed alcove, his kiss tasting of victory and vermouth. "She's dramatic. Sus, Alex. Always. But doubt is a seed," and Lila's words watered it. Calls from Victor ramped up. "Art's a hobby, son. Law school's waiting." Elena sent care packages of empanadas laced with guilt. And me? My job soured. Layoffs looming, deadlines bleeding into all-nighters, leaving me snappish, distant. We fought in whispers at first. "You're pulling away," I'd accuse, staring at the ceiling in his loft while rain lashed the windows. "This city's eating you alive," he'd shoot back, his camera gathering dust. The breaking point came on a crisp October eve. Leaves crunching underfoot as we argued on the Brooklyn Bridge, the skyline mocking us with its unyielding glow. I can't breathe here anymore, Alex. My family's suffocating me, and you're always working. And you're running? I hurled back, voice cracking over the wind. From them. From us. He turned away, shoulders hunched against the chill. Maybe I am. But if I stay, I'll lose everything. The words hung between us, heavier than the cables overhead. That night, he packed a duffel. Said it was just a week at his parents', to clear his head. But weeks stretched to months. Texts dwindled to emojis, calls to voicemails laced with static. Then silence. I shattered quietly, sold his old Hasselblad on eBay to pay rent. Drank alone at the Rusty Nail, toasting ghosts. Threw myself into work, climbing to senior editor by sheer spite. Dated a string of safe bets, guys who texted good morning but never stayed for dawn. Mom noticed, of course. Find someone steady, Alex. Life's too short for games. If only she knew. 2 years passed in a haze of promotions and hollow victories. I moved to a sleek one-bedroom in Hell's Kitchen. Walls lined with books I didn't read and photos I couldn't burn. Jude Midlaff, us at Fire Island, arms linked like we owned the beach. His exhibit had toured nationally. I'd seen the reviews, glowing praise for the voice of a new queer America. He was thriving in LA, or so Instagram lied, sun-drenched shoots, collabs with influencers, a life polished to perfection. Then, 3 weeks ago, my sister Emily called. Wedding suit? Come to Macy's Saturday. Mom's buying. Routine. Oblivious. Until Saturday, when the heavens opened and I ducked into that fitting room. Arms laden with wool and regret, and Jude materialized like a fever dream. Now here we were, crammed in this 6x6 purgatory, his knees grinding into the carpet, my pulse a war drum. Marry me? He repeated, voice breaking like glass underfoot. In his fist, that crumpled photo. Us at 14, awkward braces and summer camps, before labels and losses carved us hollow. How had he kept it? Why now? Jude, I choked, sinking to my level, the mirror reflecting 2 fractured men grasping at straws. You left. You ghosted. I waited. God. I waited, like some idiot in a rom-com. Tears welled in his eyes, spilling over. I know. I was a coward. Lila offered escape LA, a fresh start away from Dad's lectures, Mom's prayers. I thought I'd build something there, send for you later. But every shot I took was empty without you critiquing the angles. Every beach reminded me of Coney. I dated, tried to forget, but it was all smoke. Then Emily texted about the wedding. Said you were coming. I flew in last night, tracked you here. Alex, I betrayed us both. But I'm back. For real. The curtain rustled. A sales clerk's voice, muffled. Everything okay in there? And reality intruded, sharp as a slap. I pulled him up, our bodies colliding in the chaos of half-shed clothes and half-healed wounds. His warmth seeped through my shirt, familiar as breath, and for a heartbeat, I let myself imagine it. Rings exchanged on that Brooklyn pier, vows whispered against the waves, a life unapologetic. But doubt clawed back. Your family? Mine? The world's still the same, Jude. What if we crash again? He cupped my face, thumbs brushing my stubble, eyes fierce. Then we rebuild. Together. No more running. We emerged from that fitting room like survivors of a shipwreck, the suit draped over my arm, Jude's hand brushing mine in the aisle. A secret Morse code. The rain had eased to a drizzle as we stepped onto Herald Square. Times Square's neon frenzy a block away, tourists oblivious to the earthquake in our wake. Coffee? He asked, tentative like testing thin ice. Or tacos? I echoed, the ghost of our first night smiling through. We ended up at a taqueria in Koreatown, steam rising from al pastor plates, the sizzle of griddles drowning our stilted talk. He told me about LA, the glamour that soured, the hookup culture that left him lonelier than the canyons at dusk. I pitched a series on queer families, he said, fork pausing midair. Real stories, like ours, but with happy endings. Ours wasn't happy yet. That night, he crashed on my couch, the pull-out bed too symbolic of half measures. We talked until the skyline faded to gray dawn, unspooling the threads of absence. I saw your promo, he admitted, voice soft. Senior editor. Proud of you, Alex. Proud. I scoffed, but warmth bloomed anyway. I clawed my way up to afford the therapy you skipped out on. He winced, deservedly. Fair. But I'm in now. Therapy, the works. And that proposal? Not a whim. I bought the ring in LAX. Titanium. Engraved with Against the Tide. I laughed, a rusty sound. Cheesy. You're cheesy. His hand found mine across the coffee table, and the room shrank to just us. The city a distant hum. The next days blurred into a tentative rhythm. Mornings. Him editing photos on my laptop while I brewed coffee strong enough to wake the dead. Afternoons. Walks in Bryant Park. Leaves crunching underfoot. His camera clicking moments we'd reclaim. Evenings. Takeout and Tarantino marathons, his head on my shoulder like it belonged. But New York doesn't let you forget. Emily cornered me at the rehearsal dinner venue. A vineyard in the Hamptons, vines heavy with autumn promise. Who's the hot photographer crashing family brunch? She teased, eyes sparkling. Spill, big bro. Just an old friend? I lied, cheeks burning as Jude charmed Mom with tales of his travel shoots. Omitting the queer collective, Dad clapped him on the back. Good grip, son. You a boxer. And for a moment it felt possible. Seamless. Until Victor called. Jude's phone buzzed during dessert. Elena's voice tinny through speaker. Mijo, Lila says you're in New York? With that editor boy? Come home. We miss you. The table fell silent. Jude's face drained of color. Fork trembling. Ma. It's complicated. Complicated? Your father and I prayed all night. This phase, it's passing. Lila has a contact at a firm in San Diego. Real work. I excused myself, heart pounding, the vineyard air turning cloying. Outside, Jude found me by the trellis. Rain starting again in fat, accusing drops. Alex, tell them, I demanded, voice low, or we're done. Again. He recoiled like I'd struck him. Now? Here? It'll ruin Emily's day. It'll ruin us if you don't. The words tasted like ash. We'd come so far in a week. Late-night confessions, tentative touches. But the old fears loomed, shadows lengthening. He nodded, jaw set, and disappeared inside. Minutes later, shouts echoed. Victor's baritone booming. Elena's sobs piercing the night. What is this blasphemy? My son, on his knees for a man. I slipped away, driving back to the city alone, wipers slashing at the downpour like judgment. My phone lit up Jude's text. Told them everything. It's bad. But I'm fighting. For us. The wedding was a blur of white lace and forced smiles. Emily radiant in her gown, vowing forever to a man who adored her unconditionally. I stood best man. Tie choking me, Jude's empty seat a void at the back. Mom squeezed my hand during the toast. You okay, sweetheart? Her eyes searched mine, seeing too much. After the cake, a limo pulled up. Jude, disheveled, duffel in hand. Flew back from Jersey. Dad disowned me over FaceTime. Ma cried, but said she'd pray for my soul and send tamales. His laugh was brittle but real. Lila called me a fool. Maybe I am. But I'm yours, Alex. If you'll have me. I pulled him into the empty barn. Hay-scented air thick with possibility. The reception's laughter filtering through cracked doors. You fought? I whispered, forehead to his. That's enough. Our kiss was salt and storm. Vows unspoken but sealed in the thunder. No rings yet. The engraving waited. But in that moment, against the wooden beams, we were whole. Weeks turned to months, and our reclaimed life wove itself into the fabric of the city, thread by stubborn thread. Jude sublet a studio in Soho, walls papered with proofs of his new series, Tides of Truth, portraits of queer couples who'd weathered betrayals and built back stronger. Me in one. Mid-laugh on our pier, his lens capturing the scar of loss in my eyes, turned to light. Redemption arc, he quipped, but his voice caught, fingers tracing my jaw. Work for me stabilized. The magazine pivoted to digital, my bylines on long-form pieces about urban reinvention. Ironic, given my own rebuild. We hosted game nights with Emily and her husband, Mark, who ribbed Jude about his fancy camera toys, while sneaking him extra slices of pie. Mom thawed slowly. A tentative hug at Christmas. Her whisper, "Be happy, Alex. That's all I want." The closest she'd come to absolution. Dad grunted approvals over beers at Citi Field. Mets game blurring into commentary on tough breaks. Code for everything unsaid. But peace in New York is fleeting, a cab ride between potholes. The fracture came unannounced on a sweltering July dawn as we prepped for Jude's gallery show in Chelsea. His phone buzzed incessantly, unknown number, Newark area code. He silenced it, jaw tight, but I saw the flicker. Fear, old and familiar. "Who?" I asked, pouring coffee, the loft's AC wheezing against the heat. "Spam," he lied, but his eyes darted. That night, post-opening, crowd buzzing over his prints, champagne fizzing like hope. A man approached. Mid-40s, sharp suit, Victor Ramirez's jawline in miniature. "Cousin Raul," Jude introduced, voice clipped. "From the firm." Raul's handshake was iron, eyes appraising me like evidence. "Heard about the exhibit. Impressive. Uncle Vic sends regards. Says you're wasting talent on this." A gesture encompassing the room. "Rainbows, revolution, us." Jude stiffened. "Tell him I'm good. Better than good." Raul's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Family dinner next weekend. Ma insists. Bring your friend." The pause lingered, a blade unsheathed. We went, because Elena's tamales were a siren's call, and Jude's heart, stubborn, soft, couldn't sever roots entirely. The Ramirez home in Newark was a time capsule. Crucifix over the mantel, Virgin Mary gazing from the kitchen, the scent of adobo and unspoken sins. Victor greeted us at the door, broad as a linebacker gone to seed. His embrace for Jude perfunctory, for me absent. "Alexander," he acknowledged, like naming a storm. Dinner was a minefield. Elena fussed, piling plates high, her rosary clicking like a countdown. "You look thin, Mijo." Ele didn't agree. Small talk skirted edges. Jude's show, my articles, until Victor leaned forward, wine glass stem snapping in his grip. "Enough. This arrangement," suffused Jude, "like that photography nonsense." Lila called from San Diego, partner track at her husband's firm. "For you." Jude's fork stilled. "Dad, I told you." "Told me lies." Victor's voice rose, veins bulging. "Prayers don't work on rebellion, but blood does. Sign this." He slid a folder across the linen. Non-disclosure. Severance from the family trust. $50,000 to start fresh. Far from New York, far from me. Elena's sob broke the air. "Please, Victor. He's our only son." "Our son," Victor thundered, "is lost to this devil's game. Choose Jude family or that." The room spun. I stood, chair scraping, pulse roaring. "He's chosen. Us." My voice, steady, somehow cut the tension like wire. Raul chuckled, dark, bold, but blood's thicker. Jude's hand found mine under the table, squeeze fierce. "I'm done choosing sides. I love Alex. That's my family." Victor's face purpled. "Then you're dead to us." The words landed like gunfire. Elena collapsing into sobs as he stormed out, door slamming like finality. We fled into the night, Newark streetlights blurring through tears. Jude drove, knuckles white on the wheel, silence thick as fog off the Passaic. At the Holland Tunnel, he pulled over, shoulders shaking. "I lost them, Alex. For real." I pulled him close, his curls damp against my neck. "You gained us. Me. That's not loss. But betrayal festers." Whispers followed. Lila's emails to Jude, laced with pity and persuasion. "Come west. Heal this mess. Anonymous calls to my editor, hinting at personal distractions affecting my copy. Emily confided Mom's worry. He's changing you, Alex. Is this worth the family rift? Doubt crept in, insidious as humidity. Jude withdrew, night scrolling old family albums, camera idle. What if they're right? He'd murmur at 3 a.m., my back to his chest. What if I dragged you into this storm? You're the shore, I'd whisper, but the words rang hollow. Our fights escalated. Me accusing escape fantasies. Him snapping at my safe job clinging. One night, post-argument, he packed again. Not leaving, but the duffel echoed ghosts. The climax brewed over Labor Day. City emptying to beaches, leaving us in a pressure cooker loft. Jude's phone rang, Elena, voice frail. Heart attack. Your father. Hospital. Come alone. He went, of course. I paced, rain lashing windows like accusations. Hours stretched. Texts unanswered. By midnight, panic clawed, visions of coerced confessions. Ultimatums sealed in sterile halls. Then, the door flew open. Not Jude, but Raul, flanked by 2 suits that screamed, Process server. Mr. Hale? Courtesy of Victor Ramirez. Stay away from Jude, or the magazine hears about your indiscretions. Photos. From L.A. My stomach dropped. Prints tumbled out. Grainy shots. Me at a pride rally 2 years back. Arm around a date. Jude's ex. Time-stamped post-breakup. Blackmail plain as the ink. Get out. I growled. But they lingered, smirks sharp. Family first. Alone. I shattered. A vase. A lamp. Glass raining like my resolve. Jude returned at dawn, hollow-eyed. Dad's stable. Wanted me to sign away my lifestyle for inheritance. I refused. And this. I thrust the photos, voice venom. Your cousin's welcome wagon? His face crumpled. Raul? He. God, Alex, I didn't know. Betrayal, round 2. You went alone. Again. After everything. I had to face them, he shouted. First real crack in our rebuild. You think I want this poison? We tore into each other, words weapons. His abandonment, my resentment. The city's cruelty amplifying every echo. Maybe we were the mistake, he hurled, door slamming behind him. He vanished for 2 days, phone off, loft empty. I called Emily, who mobilized. Mark scoured bars. She pinged his gallery contacts. On day 3, a text, Brooklyn Bridge. Sunset, please. I went, heart in throat, the span golden in dying light. He waited midway, wind tousling his curls, eyes red-rimmed. No camera, just us, cables humming like nerves. I ran again, he admitted, voice raw. Crashed at a friend's. Thought about L.A. But every mile west pulled me back to you. He stepped closer, rain scent clinging. The betrayal mine, there's its poison. But love, that's the antidote. If you'll fight with me. Tears stung. I am fighting. Every day. But it hurts, Jude. Rebuilding on rubble. He dropped then, not to knees but to one. Pulling a velvet box from his pocket, the titanium ring glinting. Then let's make it solid. Marry me, Alex. Not despite the storm, but because we survived it. The bridge trembled under rush hour rumble, but the world narrowed to his upturned face, the engraving catching light against the tide. I hauled him up, kissing him, fierce salt mingling. Yes, God, yes. We didn't rush the wedding, planned for spring, small on that pier. Invites went out. Emily, yes, Mark toasting. Mom tentative RSVP, Dad's blank stare softening to a nod. Victor? Silence. But Elena sent a card. Tamales promised. Prayers redirected to your happiness. New York winters bit, but we bundled against them. Scarves shared, hands linked in subways. Jude's series sold out. My piece on queer resilience hit the stands, byline twinned with his credit. Betrayal scarred, but they mapped us. Stronger lines, deeper holds. One night, snow blanketing the city like absolution. We lay tangled, his heartbeat sync to mine. We made it, he murmured, fingers tracing my ring. Building it, I corrected, kissing his temple. Tide by tide. And in that quiet, with horns fading to white noise, we did. Spring arrived tentative, crocuses pushing through Central Park mulch like stubborn hopes, mirroring the fragile bloom of our plans. The wedding loomed 3 weeks out, invites etched on recycled paper, vows scribbled on napkins over midnight tacos. Jude threw himself into it with photographer's zeal. Scouting the pier at golden hour, mood boards pinned to our fridge, driftwood arches, wildflowers nodding in the breeze, the East River as our indifferent witness. Simple, he insisted, hazel eyes alight. Like us. The word still caught, a pearl in my throat. After the bridge, we'd therapy-hopped queer-affirming sessions in the village, where Dr. Lena unpacked our baggage with the precision of a surgeon. Betrayal isn't a monolith, she'd say, glasses perched on her nose. It's a teacher. What did it reveal? For Jude, courage forged in fire. For me, the terror of abandonment rooted in Dad's stoic silences, Mom's averted eyes. Progress wasn't linear. Victor's radio silence echoed like a grudge, but Elena's weekly calls chipped at the ice. Recipes shared, subtle probes. How's the man who makes you smile? Lila unfollowed Jude on Insta, but Raul's shadow lingered. A cease and desist from my lawyer shut down the photo threats. Victor's name nowhere but the intent screaming lineage. Emily, ever the mediator, bridged gaps. Mom's coming, she announced over brunch at Sarah Beth's. Avocado toast steaming. With caveats. And Dad. He's considering. Her air quotes hid worry, but her hug lingered. Mark clapped Jude's shoulder. Brothers now, huh? Pass the bacon. We laughed, but undercurrents swirled. Jude's anxiety spiked. Nights pacing, muttering about jinxing it. My own demons whispered. What if he bolts again? We'd counter with rituals. Morning runs along the Hudson, breaths sinking to pavement slap. Evenings curating our playlist, Springsteen yielding to Hozier, voices harmonizing loss into love. The conflict crested unbidden. 2 weeks pre-vows. On a muggy eve when the loft's fan stirred soup-thick air. Jude's phone lit up, Elena's number. But Victor's voice boomed through. We're coming. To the wedding. Silence swallowed the room. Jude paled, box cutter slipping from his hand mid-box assembly. Favor kits of sea glass, symbols of sharp edges smoothed. You. What? Family duty, Victor grunted, static crackling.
Elena insisted.
But know this, no spectacle. No displas. The line died. Jude sank to the floor, back to the wall, knees drawn like a child. He hates us, Alex. This'll be a farce. I knelt, hands on his. Or a truce. He showed up. That's something. Something? His laugh barked. Bitter. It's control. Parading tolerance like a trophy, then cornering you later. We argued, him spiraling into what-ifs, me pushing optimism like a shield. Give him a chance, I pleaded. For Elena. For you. Optimism got me ghosted. He snapped. Rare venom. You want me to play nice while he eyes you like a threat? The word stung, reopening veins. And you want to sabotage before it starts? That's the running, Jude. He stormed out, Brooklyn night swallowing him. Leaving me amid half-tied ribbons, doubt coiling like smoke. Hours later, he returned, sheepish, bearing empanadas from Elena's recipe. Sorry. Fear talking. We made up slow bodies aligning under sheets, whispers mending. But the seed of discord sprouted. Wedding week descended in a whirlwind. Rehearsal on the pier, salt wind whipping Emily's laughter as she practiced her toast. To loves that weather storms. Mom arrived early, floral dress crisp, her hug for me fierce, for Jude tentative. You're good for him, she murmured, eyes misty. Dad trailed, sports coat rumpled, grunt his greeting. Over clams at a waterfront dive, he cornered Jude. Heard you're shooting again. Steady? Jude nodded, guarded. Series on resilience. Queer stories. Dad's jaw ticked. Good. Stability matters. Olive branch gnarled but extended. The day dawned cerulean. Gulls wheeling over the river like heralds. Guests trickled in 50 souls, a mosaic. Gallery friends in linen, my editor with her wife, Emily's crew toasting with IPAs. The arch stood proud, driftwood laced with forsythia, waves lapping a rhythm to our nerves. Elena arrived first, veil-thin scarf fluttering, her embrace for Jude a dam breaking. Tears, Spanish endearments. Victor loomed behind, suit starched, face a mask. Beautiful spot, he allowed, eyes on the water, not us. Officiant, a drag queen elder named Ruby, voice like velvet thunder, gathered us as dusk gilded the horizon. Vows exchanged, mine, steady. You taught me to dive into the deep end, Jude. I choose you, every tide. His voice cracking. Alex, you anchored me when I drifted. Against the world, with you. Rings slid on titanium cool, engraving a talisman. Ruby's pronouncement. Husbands, sealed by sea and sky. Cheers erupted, but Victor's clap was solitary. Elena's sobs joyful. The reception sprawled on planked deck. String lights twinkling, oysters shucked, a fiddler blending klezmer with mariachi. Jude and I danced first, bare feet on wood. His head on my shoulder, world fading to our sway. Then fracture. I stepped away for air, river breeze cooling champagne flush. When Victor approached, glass in hand. A word, Alexander. We walked the pier's edge, waves whispering below. His posture rigid, but eyes Elena's hazel softened. I was wrong. About a lot. Pause, wind filling the gap. Raised him to fight. Didn't see he was fighting me. I nodded, throat tight. He's your son. Loves you still. Victor's gaze met mine, raw. And you, your family now. If you'll have this old fool. The hug was awkward, beers and backslaps, but real. Elena joined, pulling Jude into a huddle, tears mingling. Perdón, mijo. Te amo. Not all mended overnight. Dad and Victor swapped Mets-Yankees barbs over cake, a truce in rivalry. Mom danced with Ruby, laughter loosening her pearls. But as fireworks cracked over the river, bursts of crimson and gold, Jude squeezed my hand. We did it. Climax passed, not in explosion, but quiet crest. The after-party lingered till stars wheeled, guests drifting to ferries, leaving us last men standing. We made love on the beach, sand gritty, waves our lullaby, bodies a map of scars turned stories. Months later, the humanistic we've tightened. Jude's book deal landed, Tides, forward by me. Elena visited, rosary idol, tamales a weekly rite. Victor, grudging emails, a Mets ticket forwarded. For the family, my parents evolved slow. Dad's proud of you, son, over Father's Day ribs. Mom's pride flag pin, subtle as sunrise. We bought a brownstone sliver in Bed-Stuy garden plot for Elena's herbs. Darkroom for Jude's alchemy. Conflicts lingered. Arguments over dishes, deadlines. But betrayal's ghost faded, replaced by grace. One autumn eve, raking leaves, Jude paused, rake propped. Remember the fitting room? Thought I'd lost you forever. I pulled him close, leaves crunching. You found us. That's the story. And in New York's endless churn, sirens to symphonies, we wrote our ending. Not perfect, but profoundly ours. Human, flawed, loved. Years folded like origami, each crease a lesson etched deeper. The brownstone's quirks. Creaky stairs we oiled together. The garden where Elena's tomatoes burst red against chain link. A testament to roots reclaimed. By 33, I'd climbed to features editor, my desk piled with pitches on unsung heroes. Queer activists in the Bronx, immigrants rewriting American dreams. Jude's Tides sequels graced coffee tables nationwide. His lens now training young photographers at NYU. Voices from the margins finding light. Life wasn't linear bliss. Conflicts simmered, low boils. Victor's thaw was glacial, holidays tense. His toasts to the boys laced with pauses. But he'd show, Elena's hand in his, progress measured in shared silences over cigars on the stoop. Dad bonded unexpectedly. Poker nights with Victor, gruff laughs over bad bluffs. Mom's pies the peace offering. Families bend, don't break, she confided one Easter, her flag pin winking. Like the resurrection. Our own fractures healed crooked but strong. Jude's wanderlust flickered. Whispers of California gigs. But he'd ground himself with our ritual. Pier walks at dusk, hands linked, river murmuring affirmations. No more tides alone, he'd vow, ring glinting. The next storm brewed subtle in the hush of routine. At 35, Jude's annual checkup yielded a curveball. Early arthritis, from years lugging gear through urban gauntlets. Can't surf Coney anymore, he joked, but his eyes shadowed, camera heavier in hands that stiffened at dawn. I watched him grieve in fragments. Skipped shoots, frustration flaring over blurred proofs. What if I fade, Alex? Become the guy who used to? You're still you, I'd counter, massaging knuckles by fire escape lantern. Evolving, like us. Therapy reloaded. Dr. Lena's couch, unpacking ableism's quiet cruelty. Jude's fear of burden mirroring old abandonment. Betrayal's echo, she noted. But love rewrites it. He adapted fierce, switched to lightweight drones for aerials, taught hybrid classes blending tech and touch. His series pivoted. Enduring frames, portraits of disabled queer elders, resilience in wrinkled hands, canes carved like scepters. Critics hailed it. Victor, at the opening, murmured, "Strong work, son. A milestone seismic." My own reckoning came mid-30s. Burnout crashing like a wave. Deadlines devoured. A profile on a trans politician devolved into backlash. Trolls doxing, slurs flooding inboxes. Stick to fluff. One read. Sleepless, I'd pace, Jude's arms my anchor. You're the voice they fear, he'd say. That's power. We leaned, reciprocated. Vacations became sacred. Fire Island rentals. Waves lapping without judgment. Bodies unmarked by city grit. There, under dune grass, we'd renew. Skin to sand, breaths sinking to surf. Betrayal's final ghost surfaced unexpectedly. At Emily's baptism for their first, little Nora, wailing in lace. Lila appeared, uninvited, golden still but edges frayed. Divorce fresh, San Diego's shine dulled. Jude, she cooed, hugging too tight. Missed you. That series? Genius. But LA calls, big gallery wants you. Her eyes flicked to me, appraising. Solo exhibit. Fresh start. Jude stiffened, Nora's cries a backdrop. Thanks, but we're rooted here. Post-ceremony, in the church garden, she cornered him, me eavesdropping from azaleas. He's holding you back, 'cause that magazine grind? You'll burn out. Come west. Like old times. Old times. The seed of doubt she'd planted years back, sprouting anew. That night, Jude confessed over Nora's rocker, Emily's gift, on our couch. She stirred it up. The what-ifs.
Inudda, no acusacions.
And he met my gaze steady. You're my what now? What always? We talked till dawn. Lila's toxicity. The pull of past escapes. Our tether's strength. Betrayal taught me, he said. Not to run from it, but through. Climax deferred. Resolved in quiet revolution. Jude declined LA, countering with a joint pitch. Our docu-series, Tides and Tales. Me narrating, him filming, queer lives across coasts, bridging divides. It greenlit fast. Road trips are honeymoon redux. Diners in Ohio, beaches in Oregon, stories stitching America's frayed quilt. Victor's pride swelled. Framed the pilot's promo in Newark, Elena beaming at premieres. Dad, post-retirement cruise, sent a postcard. Proud. Love, Pops. Mom knit booties for hypothetical nieces. Her prayers now for joy, all kinds. By 40, the brownstone brimmed. Garden bountiful, walls hung with our evolving gallery. Jude's arthritic grip steady on a cane carved by a student. My graying temples in his latest self-portrait duo. Conflicts, whispers now, over thermostats, travel dreams, but laced with laughter, the humanism of imperfection. One anniversary, pierside at sunset, waves unchanged, Jude knelt. Not proposal, but reverence. We shared a fitting room, he reminisced, voice gravel-soft. Dropped to my knees in panic. Now, gratitude. I hauled him up, rings clinking. Stunned then, speechless now, but forever yours. The city thrummed. Horns, hearts, histories. As we walked home, hands entwined. Betrayal's scar faded to silver, a reminder. Love is an absence of storm, but the courage to dance in rain. Human, utterly flawed, fierce ours. In New York's vast chorus, our verse endured. Two men, tides tamed, story unfinished but profoundly written.